Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices is made possible in part by Allstate and the Searle Funds at the Chicago Community Trust.
Good evening y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. I'm Marissa Parra, reporter with CBS 2 Chicago. Thank you for spending part of your weekend with us. Here's what's ahead. As we enter a new phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, local doctors offer advice on where we go from here. Plus, Latinos continue to be a major entrepreneurial force in America. We'll get perspectives from local entrepreneurs on how they got their start. And a love letter to Chicago's labor movement graces a Little Village elementary school.
I've even been asked a couple of times, oh, so your husband's an iron worker? And I said, no, I am.
And iron worker Jennifer Ortiz offers La Ultima Palabra on why she says women have the steel to work in trades. First off tonight, with the lifting of masking mandates and vaccine checks in Chicago, this week seems to have marked a turning point in the COVID pandemic. Chicago Department of Public Health data shows the daily average of COVID-19 cases has plummeted since the Omicron variant peaked in January. Plus, test positivity and hospitalizations are down and continuing to decline. Here's CDPH's Dr. Allison Arwady on what she called a new phase of the pandemic.
We are at a place where it is safe to be lifting these requirements. I expect that a lot of folks will probably continue to wear masks in the short term. I fully support that. And we continue to, make the recommendations based on the risk here and now, which thankfully is low.
But as spring approaches, it's also a reminder we've been here before. Many will recall similar optimism last year when preventative measures like mask mandates were dropped, but were followed by a spike in cases due to the Delta variant. Joining us now with more are Dr. Juanita Mora, allergist and immunologist at the Chicago Allergy Center, Dr. Geraldine Luna, medical director at the Chicago Department of Public Health, and Dr. Evelyn Figueroa, professor of Clinical Family Medicine at the University of Illinois Chicago and director of the UI Health Pilsen Food Pantry. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Luna, to you first. Should Chicago expect to see future surges in variants like you'll remember the last time we dropped those mask mandates?
Yes, thank you for having me, Marissa, and hopefully not. Unless, right, a different variant, completely different. It takes over, and so our systems that we have in place are not enough. But the way that we have been accumulating data, the way that we have acquired all these tools during this 2 years of the pandemic, and we're talking about vaccines, and we're talking about case investigations and contact tracing for highly risk individuals. We're talking about now we have our national wastewater systems and also the syndromic system that we can anticipate those. And we have our COVID therapeutics, which can make a difference. We don't expect to see anything with those lines of Omicron variant, but we might see some cases up and down. And that's what we're calling this the part of the endemic. It is learning how to live with COVID-19.
Okay, the hopefully not. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are also echoing that. Dr. Figueroa, to you next. Do you agree with the lifting of the mask mandates and the vax checks for public places at this time?
It all depends on the background rate and the incidence. So we have to be nimble and we have to keep applying the test results and understanding when we have lower values of COVID infection, when we can be a little bit more laxed. Right now, with our numbers being so low in the Chicagoland community, it makes sense to reduce them and to let people have a more of a personal choice in whether or not to mask.
And Dr. Mora, to you next. Can you give us a little perspective on what the COVID outlook is like outside of the U.S. and what that could mean for our future?
Sure. So I always tell people, we have to look at what's going on in the world because that can be telling of when the next variant might be here. Experts are predicting within the next 3 to 4 months. But if we look at it, the U.S. is ready to party in the USA. But look at what's happening in For example, Hong Kong and New Zealand, they're currently running out of hospital beds with, the Omicron variant and other variants that might emerge. You have people exiling, now up to 1 million people exiling out of Ukraine, and it's 20% of Ukraine that's currently boosted. So when we're looking at this, they're not looking at social distancing or even masking as they're exiting to other countries. So could we expect a possible variant coming out sooner? I mean, could be possible, which is why we need to be prepared by vaccinating everyone who's unvaccinated and boosting everyone eligible for a booster to be prepared for the next variant.
Some good points there. You're right. I mean, it's remarkable comparing different timelines across the globe. Dr. Luna, I'm curious, will there be any further vaccination campaigns or outreach by the city?
Yes, and the city is very strong right now and vaccinated. Perhaps we want folks to understand that vaccination and COVID-19 therapeutics are the pillar moving forward. And first of all, vaccination is the strongest, continues to be the strongest piece in controlling the disease, which is the next step that we want. Now that we're a little bit more in a place to strategize ahead of time, come with preparedness plans, it is essential to have our vaccination. And the city is doing everything, including we have our city-run clinics, which are permanently there for patients to go in for free. Nothing changes. No identification needed. No insurance is needed, with incentives still to get your vaccines wherever you are, except for boosters. But those are within considerations. We have our Protect Chicago at Home. We have the regional leads, which are we call them the equity zones. And this is a part of the bigger picture for Healthier Chicago 2025. And then we have an incredible campaign coming out to make sure that people have access to the vaccine, to understand the importance at this point. We don't want anybody dropping guards right now. This is not the time. And importantly as well, making sure also that we have access to therapeutics, COVID-19 therapeutics, which can save lives as well.
And that is a perfect transition to my next question for Dr. Figueroa. What do people need to know about the therapeutic drug options that are available to treat COVID-19?
Well, for therapeutic drug options, first of all, it's important to understand who needs which drug. So if you're thinking about monoclonal antibodies and antivirals, patients have to be a certain level of sick to qualify for those medications at high risk for hospitalization. We want to make sure that we're using medications strategically and efficiently. And when we're talking about this, we're not talking about ivermectin and medications like that. Although there's an uptick in those animal-based prescriptions, those are not effective in humans and actually can cause significant damage. So I'm talking about the antivirals and the monoclonal antibodies. Again, people have to be appropriately ill to qualify for them. Dr. Luna, do you have anything for that?
Oh, yes. And the city is aware of that. And believe it or not, Marissa, the first number one reason people are not getting the drugs as they should, which decreases our utilization to 2%, is because they're not aware that they have a window of 5 days to qualify for the pills and another window to qualify for the IV infusion of these drugs, these antivirals. So we are working on a campaign to make sure to connect people to medical home, because this is another thing. We need prescriptions. And we're on a base of equity right now. And the most important thing, Marissa, to know is that we're not in scarcity right now. Chicago is in a good position. There's more medications rolling in, but it's important that people understand how to get them, how quickly, how soon. So if anybody is 65 and older listening to this message that we have here today, call your doctors with minimal symptoms just to make sure you might qualify to get these drugs. And it might save your life. These are medications, and it might save your life.
And Dr. Luna, I didn't want to interrupt, but we have about 30 seconds left. So I want to turn it to you, Dr. Mora. Bring us home. One last question. How should medically fragile people approach this new phase of the pandemic? I'm sure there's some apprehension and perhaps, maybe a little bit of hesitancy right now for them.
Sure. Go slow in masking, in taking off your mask, obviously, making sure we vaccinate everyone around us, boost everyone around these actual vulnerable populations. And also, we're also protecting the little ones, the less than 5 years of age, because we're still waiting for their vaccine. And like Dr. Luna said, we need this educational campaign. So that way people know that there's antivirals and monoclonal antibodies available for treatment of high-risk populations.
Well, our thanks to Dr. Wendy Zamora, Dr. Geraldine Luna, and Dr. Evelyn Figueroa.
Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you for having me.
Much of the story of Latinos in America is that of entrepreneurship. And the Latino business community is adding chapters to that story faster than ever. According to a 2021 report by the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative, Latino entrepreneurs continue to outpace the rest of the startup population. Latinos are 1.7 times more likely to start their own business than other groups. About 5 million Latino-owned businesses currently exist in the U.S., and 9% of those are employer businesses, a number that grew by 26% between 2012 and 2019. By 2050, Stanford estimates Latino-owned businesses will make up 29% of U.S. businesses. That's up from 17% today. And despite all of this, the Stanford report also found that while 77% of white business owners receive all or most of the funding they apply for from national banks, just 51% of Latino business owners do. Joining us now with more on this are Pedro Guerra, Director of Illinois Latino Small Business Partnership, the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We also have Luz Sandoval, President and Managing Partner of Halo Advisory Group, and Jacqueline Ruiz, CEO and founder of JJR Marketing. First of all, thank you all for joining us. Jacqueline Ruiz, let's start with you first. What do you wish you had known before starting your first business?
Thank you. I was only 23 years old when I started JJR Marketing, and I wish I would have known how to delegate. Understanding how to get results through other people is the key to achieving success. And I wish I would have known that way before. It took me a few years of my entrepreneurial journey over the last 17 years to understand that and capture that and be able to capitalize on that.
Luz Sandoval, to you next. You're something of a serial entrepreneur, we hear. What made you decide to go into business for yourself?
You know what, after successes in corporate America and I've always been an entrepreneur within large corporations. So I took that same flavor and said, well, I'm used to working hard. I know I have the work ethic, so I'm going to apply it to my own enterprise. And that's, I think, when I had the fortune of a successful exit in corporate America in an acquisition, I then decided to pursue a business in what I wanted to do. And I purchased a marine dealership. So.
Well, some good tips from both of you. Pedro Guerra, to you next. We spoke to Rogelio Lopez of the Hispanic Business Network, and he said small businesses have been especially vulnerable to fraud throughout the pandemic. Here's some of what Rogelio had to say.
Fraud is when people were not going to the office. That's when fraud started picking up. They said, oh, we can take advantage of that person. You know, what are the odds that they're not using the computer to balance their checkbook? Will do stuff to their accounts. So there was a lot of fraud going on. And over the last 3 years, I would say that when anytime a business gets hit by fraud, the average cost is $25,000. So think about that. A big business can weather that storm. What will it do for a small business?
$25,000. Pedro, can working with financial institutions and business networks help small businesses protect themselves from fraud and other financial missteps?
Yes, absolutely. Reaching out to your chamber and understanding the knowledge that they bring in, understanding what a suspicious email is, understanding that nobody should really be asking you for your personal information, EIN full or Social Security. So understanding the basic importance of protecting your identity, your business identity, protecting your EIN number, like if it's your social, because in reality it is. Working with the financial institution and working with the chamber can help eliminate the fraud risk.
Well, thank you for that, because every dollar counts. Jacqueline Ruiz, to you again. Are there any sectors you feel like Latinos are lacking in particular?
Yes, I think technology is still an underrepresented area for Latinos, as well as the financial sector. I love to see more investors and more leaders in, CIOs and leading the technology sector. I think there's a lot of innovation to be created in that space. And I think we as Latinos bring a lot of that magic to the table.
Well, we know how much that is taking off, the technology right now, especially with the pay. We know that's a high paying industry right now. Lou, to you now, what has your experience been getting capital over the years?
Well, you know what? I think traditionally we're raised to be sort of debt averse. That's kind of our roots. It's live by the bootstrap and kind of self-fund your own business. But I think one of the things that we could do a better job of is learning how to play the equity financing route as needed, but knowing how much of your business to equitize. Well, one, how to create the equity, but two, then how to procure those venture capitalists or those private equity firms that can be good partners to you in helping you scale your business. Or if you're at the life cycle of your business where you'd like to then exit your business and then help you accordingly. But it takes a little bit of maturity in getting the business up to a certain recurring level that'll make that attractive for those financiers.
Great. Well, let's talk starting businesses. Let's circle back to this. Pedro, what kind of resources are there for people who are considering doing that?
Yes, there's several resources. You can go on the SBA.gov, reach out to your local chamber, network with the resources that are already available, and then also understanding that right now, the Hispanic community, there are several landscapers, but they're not several landscaping minority business enterprises, minority or women-owned businesses. Getting access to contracts is something that a chamber can help you do. It's something that local resources can help you do at no cost. So not getting charged $5,000 to get certified for a service that you can receive at no cost.
Great. And I have one final question, and this is for all of you. One piece of advice for Latinos considering starting their own business. Pedro, let's start with you since we just heard from you.
Have a business plan and understand the importance of having an entity and filing your taxes the correct way.
Okay. Lou, how about you? What is your one piece of advice that you want to share with people?
I think it's sort of a dovetail, but on what Pedro said, that it's really, dream what you want to dream and put your plan in place, make it happen, but really buckle up, because it's being in business for yourself is really, it's a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And I like to tell people, you put your hands up in the highs and down in the lows, but just buckle up, because it's going to be an enjoyable one. And best of all, you're going to be working for yourself. So you'll see the fruits of your labor immediately.
And Jacqueline, how about you? Tell me what your big piece of advice is. I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you. I mean, I totally agree with Pedro and Lou. And I would say that if you can take the time to document, encapsulate, and package your value in correlation to how you can serve that specific market that you're geared towards helping, you will be years ahead in making that dream come to reality. And I think that documenting what we know and our expertise in that service of other people, in particular that niche market, is one of the best things that we can do as a business owner.
And you know what, Jacqueline, I want to come back to you one more time. I'm not done with you guys just yet. Do you feel like Latinas as entrepreneurs are a little underrepresented?
Absolutely. I reached the 7-figure mark about a year and a half ago, and I found out a startling statistics. Only 2.6% of women entrepreneurs reach that $1 million mark, and I was shocked, right? And let alone for our Latino population, our Latinas starting businesses. I know that we are the highest, segment to create businesses, but we're not necessarily reaching those levels. So I really want to make an impact. I want to elevate more Latina entrepreneurs and see more of us, reach that $1 million mark.
Yes, and you are representing the Latina entrepreneurs out there. To all of you, our thanks, Pedro Guerra, Luz Sandoval, and Jacqueline Ruiz.
Thank you.
Up next, public art as public memory. We explain right after this. In recent years, Chicago has exploded with the color and life of public art. You may have noticed this with some of the murals. The city has also become somewhat of an incubator for young artists through programs like those at Yollocalli Arts Reach, that is the youth initiative of the National Museum of Mexican Art. One mural resulting from that program graces Gary Elementary School in Little Village. Muralist Arturo Fresan worked with a group of teens to depict the figures behind a pivotal moment in Chicago's labor history. Here, Fresan and Yollocalli artist Nayeli Alvarez talk about how public art can also function as public memory.
The mural's name is Que la libertad nos besa en los labios siempre. It's roughly translated into English as like, may freedom kiss us on the lips forever. Street art is a lot about dialogue with the community and what we are thinking and what we are feeling. I brought up the idea given that Little Village is a more like a working class neighborhood, so let's talk about the story of labor rights. It's something that is very important in Chicago. It's one of our main exports. The main figures are the 8 purported rioters of the Haymarket affair. They were holding a sort of meeting trying to get to establish the 8-hour workday. That ended up with them mostly in jail and hung. So the wife of one of them, Lucy Gonzalez Parsons, was the one that then took it onto herself to keep moving the cause, and that's how we ended up having the 8-hour workday.
When the topic was brought up, I was like, wait, hold on, I haven't really thought about it that much. So it was nice to be able to learn about it and then also incorporate it in street art. I'm sure a lot of CPS students and their parents are working class people. I hope they take it upon themselves to look up the history of Chicago that isn't really taught in schools. A lot of times, especially when you come from neighborhoods like Little Village, it's always like, oh, I feel so sorry for, not sorry, but it's almost like it's something you have to rise from. And here, especially with this mural, it's something you could just take a stand in.
When the pursuit of freedom becomes a task and a duty, it's kind of hard. And it's very easy to get discouraged. We don't want to just take it for granted. So it's something that needs to be passed on, that there has been a lot of struggles for us to get what we have already. So giving it up for some sort of commodity might not be the best idea.
So colorful. You'll find more on this mural and Yollocalli Arts. Just head to our website. And if you didn't know, this is Women's History Month, and the image of Rosie the Riveter has become a cultural icon for women since her debut during World War II, when women were urged to take up work in factories and shipyards while America's men were fighting overseas. But despite Rosie's encouragement over the years, today, women represent a tiny minority of trade workers, less than 3% of the workforce in Illinois. That's according to nonprofit advocacy group Chicago Women in Trades. Still, iron worker Jennifer Ortiz wants women to know they can do it. Here she gives La Ultima Palabra on the spark that ignited her career in the trades and wants to show other women can do it too.
I'm Jennifer Ortiz, and I am a Union Local 63 iron worker. In 2015, I was working at a desk job, and I felt stuck, and I needed a career change. I have a daughter, and I was looking for something to better our lives, something that would give me a sense of financial freedom, a sense of pride. I thought about going back to school, and I just thought that it wasn't going to work out for me. I saw a flyer for Chicago Women in Trades 12-week free pre-apprenticeship program. So when I found that flyer, it was a godsend invitation. I came to the open house, and that was it. I was sold. It's amazing seeing a lot of women in various trades come together, uplift each other. I've been an iron worker going on 5 years now, and you don't see a whole lot of women. But it was something that I was inspired to do, and I never felt that it wasn't for me. I came in, I tackled it, and honestly, it's the best thing that I've done. I'm a whole lot stronger than I ever thought I was. I never imagined being in a very physical environment. Never in a million years did I ever imagine I would be hanging off skyscrapers, helping build the Chicago skyline. Being able to show my daughter that her mom can do that, that's the most amazing feeling. She says I'm her hero. Anything that's broken, she says, I know you can fix it because you're an iron worker. I can say I had my hands on this project. There's a lot of job sites we'll drive past and I'll show my daughter, I did that. Your mother helped build that. So I'm always encouraging women to come sign up, check out Chicago Women in Trades, be exposed to the trades that are out there and find what you like and tackle it. There's so many skills you can gain. You get out there and you make a difference. Becoming an iron worker has changed my life dramatically. It's given me a better life for my daughter and myself. So I encourage all women to come check this out and gain a career where you're proud and learn so many skills. The benefits are amazing. You wouldn't regret it.
Wow, so fearless, so inspirational. You love to see it. You'll find more on Chicago Women in Trades just like her on our website, where you can also see more of our La Ultima Palabra series. And just in time for Women's History Month, we have more women in trades for you. Tune into Chicago Tonight Black Voices this weekend to hear from plumber Zara Hill and her mother, turbine generator winder Renee Wilson Hill. And that's our show for this weekend. I'll be back here in the host chair next week on Latino Voices. But in the meantime, you can catch my reporting on Channel 2, CBS Chicago. Now, from all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Marissa Parra. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy, stay safe, y buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm dedicated to preserving the dignity and rights of all individuals.